Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, Bruce Marchionda of the TAC Titans. Bruce, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me today, Coleman.
I'm excited to get you on our podcast because you guys have had 2 or 3 competitions now at the TAC Titans since you've started training and competing again?
Yes, we had 2 for our kind of upper level tracks and then 1 for our more developmental challenge track.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. So I guess first of all, I talked to you guys maybe late April, early May, I think it was. We had Charlotte on, we had Claire on, and they, it seemed like everyone was kind of doing their own thing in terms of staying in shape and training. Since you guys have been able to get back in the water, how was it just being able to use your facilities again?
Well, I mean, obviously we were extremely excited to get back into the facility, and obviously we started very slow with just 1 swimmer per lane with partitions up, and then we slowly moved to 2 swimmers per lane starting at opposite ends, and recently we are experimenting with 3 in a lane, 2 at one end, 1 at the other end, keeping social distance at the end with 2. But in hindsight and looking back, we've been in the water for 12 weeks now, and it's been a blessing. We have smaller groups. I feel like I'm doing my best coaching right now. Sometimes you feel like you're managing everything when you have everybody in the pool at the same time. And right now, might be JP and 10 athletes, myself and Claire or Blake or Matt with, 16 athletes. And we're just getting a lot of individual stuff done, a lot of feedback, a lot of attention. And I think the intensity of the workouts since we've been back has probably been the highest that it's been since I've been here.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it sounds very personalized, and it sounds like that's, an environment where you can really get some serious work done, which is awesome.
Exactly.
So tell me about how the racing has been, how the competitions have been. Maybe we can start with the first one. I think that's the one where Claire Curson broke like 3 national age group records.
Right.
We were, as swimming fans, we were kind of nipping at the bit to see if they would, actually count, and which they ended up counting, which is awesome. Going into that competition, what were you envisioning for, what races might look like or how certain swimmers might perform?
It was a little bit of a mystery. We didn't know really what to expect, other than we knew that workouts have been very, very good. The week before that, for example, we did a set where we went 30 50s on 120, all max effort, and we had people do their prime stroke. So Claire went 30 50s fly on 120, and at that point, I think her slowest 50 fly from a push was 25-3. Right. So I'm like, okay, this could be really good. Right.
Yeah.
Lance kind of doing the same thing, and Michael Cotter and Charlotte and all those guys that, they were just putting up some really fast times in practice. And, to their credit, during that break, they all found their own little niche, to either do tethered workouts, do lake swimming, hit dry land harder, and focus on technique when they could. And to their credit, they were able to get back a lot faster. Mm-hmm. And I think just the excitement to get back up and race. I mean, that first meet, we did nothing for really preparing for the meet itself. We just kept on our schedule. We threw suits on. And I think we had something like 60% lifetime bests. Now, of course, that's coming off of a short course season where we didn't really have a chance to do much of that at the end of the season. But still, I thought that was pretty impressive. And then the following week, we went into the second meet 3 weeks later, figuring, okay, how are we going to go faster? And, like Lance Norris went a lifetime best in every event. He was 13 for 13 among the weekends. And even during a normal season, if you want to call it that, that's pretty impressive. But, it's our summers just did a great job. They were focused. We didn't go any doubles, right? We were going singles. We're doing dry land at home. And again, to their credit, and our strength trainer, Aaron, they've done a good job with that kind of stuff. And, just really trying to work on the specific stuff that they needed to work on, which we were able to do on a very individual basis, paid off. We had a couple swimmers come in the afternoons and get a double in, but that was, hey, let's continue the tethered workouts that have seemed to help. Doing stuff like that. Like Carol Pennington would come in and get a little more volume in, and went lifetime best at 500, 1650 after, being out of the water for 7 weeks and then back in the water for 12 weeks. So makes you think about things a little bit as well.
And that was my next question is, you're a seasoned coach. You've trained a lot of different athletes. You've seen a lot of different things. Obviously we're seeing a lot of swimmers come back and, if they've done some kind of work in the last 5 months, whether it's in the pool or outside of the pool, people are able to race at a very high level right now. And it does kind of make you wonder, what should we be changing, our traditional thought of what swim training is?
Right. It was funny because I was joking the other day with JP, and we were standing there and said, okay, JP, here's our plan. 22 weeks before the Olympic trials, we're going to take 7 weeks off, and we're going to come back for 14 weeks, and we're going to get ready to go. But, I think a lot of it has to do with, too, is, the age swimmer that I'm dealing with right now, they're 15 years old to, maybe 18 years old. And, during that time, they're growing and they hit dry land. So they're bigger, they're stronger. And those that dedicated themselves when we came back, it was like, whoa, our primary goal when we shut down was, okay, we are going to come back as the most physically fit club in the country. I mean, that's what we put out there, right? It was a lofty goal. That's what we wanted to do. And, when we came back, we had, boys looking better than they ever have before, right? A little bigger, a little stronger, so I think a lot of it has to do with that, plus the rest and recuperation. You can't, I think we all understand that now a little bit more. But it was just great to watch. Yeah.
And so, you, like you said, you had your first competition 3 weeks, second competition, and then you had one for the maybe some younger swimmers or lower down swimmers. What's in store for the rest of the season for you guys?
Well, we're continuing through this week, and then this weekend, one of our coaches is getting married, Claire Donahue, and so we are shutting down, and we're all trucking up to Tennessee for her wedding, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to take the next week off for everybody. And then we get started back with the new season on August 31st.
Okay.
So, yeah. So trying to keep motivated this week's been a little difficult. But, just because I know, okay, we're going to have a break here in at the end of this week. But, I just tell them to be quiet and get in the water.
There you go. So speaking of Claire Donahue, I wanted, something I've never gotten to talk to you about it was your time at Western Kentucky, and you developed a lot of swimmers that maybe, weren't as big names before, but went on to do some pretty big name things. Claire Donahue, 2012 Olympian in the 100 fly, out of like lane 2, I think.
Lane 1.
Lane 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabian Schwingenschlogel was at Western Kentucky. He went on to
Yep.
Mizzou to become their first NCAA champion ever in the 100 breast. Those are a couple names that come to mind. But when did you arrive at Western Kentucky, and tell me about the state of the program when you got there?
That was in 2003 when I came there. And Bill Powell was the head coach before that, and he was the only other head coach. He and I were the only 2 head coaches at Western Kentucky. And, the administration there was so supportive of what we try to do with the swimming stuff. And so we just, obviously it started with recruiting, and I knew, okay, you're not going to get the 5,200 flyer out of high school, right? We didn't have the big name recognition. So we spent a lot of time going out and looking at swimmers like Claire. She was 55 in the 100 fly coming out of high school, right? But there was something about her that we felt like, okay, she can be pretty good, right? It was like a nice evolution. Her freshman year, she didn't qualify to go to NCAAs. Her second year, she qualified to go to NCAAs and didn't score. Her junior year, she qualified to go to NCAAs and she was 4th, right? Her senior year, she qualified to go to NCAAs and she was 2nd, right? Then the next year, she was 2nd at nationals behind Dana Ballmer, right? So, okay, maybe we got a shot here, right? And then we go to the Olympic trials, and in the prelims, she's got the 2nd fastest 100 fly, right? So, okay, here we go. And semifinals, I remember her saying she swallowed water off her turn, didn't swim kite as well, ended up in lane 1. And I'll say, look, Claire, I'm not asking you to do anything that you didn't do in the last 24 hours. And that's go your prelim time and we're on the team. And she went faster, right? But, and Fabian, that's kind of a story because he at the time was dating Nadine. And
right.
So I recruited them as a package, right? This was a 2-for-1 deal. Come on. Fabian and Nadine both, just great human beings. And again, he developed, and our last year at Western, he was 6th at the NCAAs. And we're like, you're the only returning person on the podium.
Yeah.
Right. And then he wins NCAAs the next year. So, it's all about developing swimmers, and that's what's fun here, right? This is all about developing swimmers, getting them faster, and really enjoying the sport. And I think I've always been very good at that, is development. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I kind of like here, just because that's the biggest factor that we're trying to do here. Develop each individual swimmer to their full potential. And that's whether it's, the Claires and the Charlottes and the Lances and the Mikes, those guys of the world, or it's, it's our, sectional swimmer. Mm-hmm. Right. That's kind of what it's all about. So that's our approach. And, I've just got a really great coaching staff here. We went all together. We had our first coach leave this summer, and that was the first coach that left our program in 4 years since I've been here. And the only reason she left is she got married, and her husband had a residency in Chicago. So it was like, I guess that's a good excuse. But we told her that, you could commute to Chicago pretty easily. But so it's great, and they all understand how we want to do things, and we're kind of all on the same page. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a lot to unpack there. So you get
No
to
pun
Western
intended.
Kentucky. The administration is very supportive, and you talked about development a lot, right? Obviously, you don't have the big name, so you're working on development. In college, you can recruit, and you hear about a lot of schools, do a great job at recruiting and a great job at developing. With in those first few years there at Western Kentucky, how were you learning to develop those swimmers that you would those diamonds in the rough?
Um, well, I think, I spent the 9 years before that at Clemson, and really we were kind of doing the same thing there. It's just we're trying to recruit the right people, surround yourself with the right people. And I think when I got to Clemson, the women's team was sixth in the ACC. And by the third year, we won the ACC on the women's side. And that was just through development. Um, and so I took some of that stuff with me to Western Kentucky and, just hit the ground recruiting. I I always tell people great recruiting makes up for a lot of bad coaching. So, so we just really hit the ground running recruiting wise and try to get the best student athletes that we can get.
Mm-hmm.
And then just really worked on the development. And I think a big part of the development too, and I know this is going to sound really corny, but we kind of lived and died there, and we try to do that here, that nobody cares how much you know until they know you care, right? So we just try to really make sure that they understand that we care about them, right? And when you do that, then they're going to do some great things. And it's just like here. I mean, there are some of these swimmers just have really separated themselves training wise. And, I think they're training on a very, very high level, for a 16-year-old boy, right, to end the 3,000-yard main set, hundreds on 120, and they're going 50 points, 49s. I mean, they're training at a whole different level, right? And we saw that with the boy, Mitchell Stroud, right, who still has another year here. And he, kind of did the same thing and got up, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, went 138 in the 200 free, which was awesome for him, and 45-2 in the 100, and, 428 in the 500. And it was just a great, for him to start to develop like that.
Mm-hmm. So say when you guys saw Claire Donahue, when you were recruiting her, when she got to campus finally, what were a few of the things you focused on in order to have her reach her full potential? Obviously, I'm guessing you didn't see her making an Olympic team when she was a freshman, but to put her in that category, to see her blossom to her fullest, what were some of the things you guys were focusing on?
There were two big things: is the dry land that we did. Mm-hmm. We had a great strength trainer there, John Stefanski, and he really bought into what I wanted to do there. And Claire embraced that like no other, and just became a much better athlete, stronger. I guess I could say this, but when she was a freshman coming in, she was a little soft, right? Mm-hmm. And to her credit, I mean, she became just for a woman, extremely strong. I can remember her, banging out 20 some pull-ups, right? So she really embraced that, and that was a big part of our program. And then I ended up actually changing her fly a good bit, mm-hmm. Just technique wise. And we, even here and there, we were very, very technique oriented, very technique oriented. We do technique work every single day, for my group here, and some pretty good swimmers, right? We do technique work every single day. And so I think that just the technique, and she understood that. She was really good about being able to make changes very quickly. Just like Charlotte, just like Claire, those guys, they make changes so fast, right? It's unbelievable. And then I have some guys that I'll videotape them and they look at it and I'm saying, now you know what I'm talking about? And they look at it and they go, well, that's not me. Well, yeah, it is you. Look, that's not me, right? So it's that technique is extremely important, and the dry land is what we focused on for Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so, as you got further and further into your time at Western Kentucky, how did that process evolve for you at all? Did you add or subtract anything into that development that was so key for building the best program that you could?
Yeah, and I think what we did there and what we try to do here on a little bit lesser of a scale, but pretty much the same thing, is that we sat down with each athlete in the beginning of each semester. And the specific part of that meeting was, okay, what is the best way for you to train? Okay. Because I was a firm believer, and I still am, what is good for one person may not necessarily be what's good for somebody else, even if you're targeting the same events. Mm-hmm. So when they walked away from that meeting with me, they walked away with their own individual weekly schedule, right? Then once we met with everybody, we put them all together and we came up with our master plan, right? And so there, for example, we had a 10-lane, 25-yard pool, right? So we were running 3 different practices each day, right? Okay. To maybe, not put any more than, we wanted to go 3 in a lane. On occasion, we'd go 4, but we wanted to make sure everybody was getting what they needed, right? We were all on the same cycle, the same energy systems throughout the week, but we could move people around just like we do here. Okay, you're going to the distance free today, but we're all working on threshold, right? Mm-hmm. You can go to fly here tomorrow. We're all working on, critical speed and pace, whatever it may be. So we're able to do that. And I'm very fortunate here because I have the help that I need to be able to do that, right, with our upper level groups. And so, again, by the end of the week, we feel like, okay, everybody's really kind of getting what they need. And we did the same thing at Western Kentucky. It's where kind of started to do that. And we had to because, again, we weren't going to put 54 athletes in a 10-lane pool all at once, mm-hmm. right? So we had the ability to be able to do that.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it seems like that kind of flexibility has been key for a lot of programs lately to be able to, train all their athletes individually and get everyone what's best for them.
Right. And there's days just like here, Wednesdays and Saturdays, where we want to get up and swim really, really, really fast. I mean, really fast. Right. Mm-hmm. And we make no bones about it, right? It's like you're expected to get up and swim really fast. You want to swim fast in a meet, swim fast in practice. Mm-hmm. All right. So Wednesdays and Saturdays, we tend to be more all together because we want the excitement, we want the camaraderie. I think maybe you might have been here one day when we were doing a 125 free max effort followed by 75 stroke, right?
I was, yes.
Right, yeah, and the kids get excited about it, and they support one another. And once you start creating that environment, which again, we did at Western Kentucky, kids want to get up and swim fast.
Yeah.
Right, and that's always going to translate into good meet performances. I tell them, look, I don't have any fairy magic dust. I can't pull it out of my pocket when it comes time to swim at the end of the year and sprinkle it on you, and here we go, right? So they all get it. I mean, look, you want to swim fast in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that leads me. We talked about, obviously Claire having her awesome Olympic run in 2012. At your time during Western Kentucky, was there a practice? Was there a meet? Give me a war story or two of someone swimming exceedingly fast, or just something memorable that happened while you were there.
With Claire or with anybody?
Anybody.
Well, I mean, obviously, Claire, when we went to nationals in 2011, right? That was kind of her kind of breakout year, long course. We had an outdoor long course pool that we would be able to get in there, maybe Labor Day, Memorial Day, whichever one it is, and we would stay out there until it got too cold to come in. The whole college team did. But other than that, I remember we used to have to drive an hour down the road to Nashville, right, to get long course, right? So, here's Claire and I and a couple of swimmers driving down to Nashville Monday, Wednesday, Fridays after classes to get long course in. And John Morris down there was great to us and allowed us to come in and do that. But that 2011 Nationals, long course wise, when she got second behind Dana there, was kind of breakout. And even the 200 fly, which she'll tell you she does not like very much, just like my other Claire here, doesn't like that 200 fly very much, right? I mean, for her at that time, 2011, she went 210, right? Which was a solid swim for her, especially for her, I think she went out in 100 and brought it back in 109, but it was a 110. And so I still remember that meet out there. That was just a great breakout, kind of for her. Everybody else we had there had a great meet as well. But it was the first time we were like, okay, maybe we got a shot here.
Yeah.
Right. And then you turn around and, Claire went 50.03 in the first meet in the 100 fly. And I'm like, that was just a great swim, right? How are we going to get faster? And we kind of figured out a couple little tweaks and the walls and stuff. And I mean, she goes 49.7. I mean, holy cow, she's 16 years old and 49.7 in the 100 fly. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of was a breakout swim for her, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's the fuel that us as swimming fans needed for sure. Seeing you guys perform, for me personally, has been the highlight of these quarantine meets so far. Because, it's like we talked to Charlotte and Lance and Claire a few months ago, and then we turn around and, Lance goes 13 best times and Charlotte's tearing it up. Claire's breaking all these nags. It's very cool to see. So I guess, to wrap up this conversation, moving forward after you take your week break, how do you see the season progressing in the next few months?
We're going to pretty much approach it like any normal season. We hit dry lands and a lot of aerobic stuff very hard the first 4 weeks. Everybody's together in our group in groups. And then during those 4 weeks is when we sit down individually with each athlete, determine what their weekly schedule will look like, and then we'll get to work. Our meet schedule will change, obviously. We'll focus a little more on, the pro series meets for our higher level swimmers. We still want to take a really strong group down to Atlanta, not just for US Open, but for juniors, right? And we've never focused on juniors before, but this year that is the plan, right? That our goal is to go down there and represent TAC Titans very well in December. And then, we're kind of setting up our schedule now, which is becoming a very difficult thing, but them going back to school because they started school on Monday.
Okay.
A lot of them are in that virtual academy. And so we are hoping to have a little bit more flexibility in our schedule. But we don't have as much as we would like, but we are able to get, the swimmers that need it long course more this year. Right.
Nice.
So, there'll be some that'll get 4 days of long course, even 6 days of long course if they need it. And then, like someone like a Claire, I don't want her to go long course every day. That'll, I think, beat her up a little bit too much, right? So Tuesday for her tends to be a speed day. Thursday tends to be a recovery day for her. So we'll go short course on those days, right? And we're just kind of mapping that out a little bit differently, where Charlotte might need to get a little more long course in, right? Lance definitely, Michael, Braden, Mitchell, Thor, those guys need more long course, right? Ashley Twitchell obviously needs a lot more long course. So, it can't be long enough for her. But so we're trying to schedule that now so that they're able to get a little bit more long course this year than they have in the past years.
Gotcha. Yeah, seems logical. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for your time. Any parting thoughts before we close out here?
No, I just appreciate you giving me a call and spend some time with you. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on, and we're excited to hopefully talk to you soon about more awesome results from the TAC Titans.
Well, knock on wood. Let's hope so.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.